Good afternoon. I'm going to speak to you a little bit about trying to adopt a typology to equestrians. So, Stanley Plog developed this typology for tourism in the late 60s, and in America, where it was developed, it worked very well. He was able to, through 8 questions, be able to tell you what type of tourist you were going to be, how much you were going to spend, where you would probably travel to. This study was designed to analyze people who ride to see if they fall within the same parameters of that typology. Riders generally have to travel in the United States good distances for competitions or to just trail ride. A lot of our trail riders in Missouri, the state I'm currently in, have to travel to the south part of the state. So it's a good 200 or 300 miles to get to the state parks in order to trail ride. Since travel is a major component, I wanted to see if this model would actually fit. The U.S. equine industry, the American Horse Council, figures there are about 4.3 million riders in the U.S. Another 3.6 participate in different showing events. It creates about 1.4 million jobs, 112 billion in gross domestic product. So equestrians have an impact on our economy. The 3 states where I did part of the study, North Carolina, Virginia, and Missouri, similar horse operations. North Carolina, about 225,000 horses, Virginia, 215, Missouri, 281. It's a larger state. All 3 states are fairly rural, anywhere from 4 to about 8 million in population for each state. So why do we travel? Whether researchers are measuring personality traits, motivations, or behaviors, we need a way to group or classify and segment the data. One of the ways we can do this is look at horse or equestrian tourism as a sporting type based tourism, which is whether you participate or simply just watch. You're traveling to make an impact, and you have an economic impact to go to the event. We are equestrian tourists right now. I flew 9.5 hours to come here. I'm going to be spending money in the restaurants, traveling in and around the conference. So I'm, in essence, a tourist while I'm here. So, again, Plog's typology began in the late 60s. It's based on both quantitative and qualitative data. And he discovered that people who travel, you travel based on your personality. And your personality can fit along a continuum. And this is his continuum. The psychocentrics will be over here on your left, allocentrics on the right. Most people are mid-centrics. Psychocentrics. My parents were psychocentrics. They go to the same place year in and year out. They're very dependable. They don't like a lot of risk. They want good value for their money. They usually travel, and again, I'm speaking for the states, within a 10-hour distance. So they're mostly drivers. They prefer familiar rather than foreign atmospheres, and they tend to typically spend less. But as a tourism destination, you can count on these people coming back year in and year out. Allocentrics, the other end of the spectrum, prefer non-touristy destinations. They want to be on the cutting edge. They prefer flying to their destinations. They enjoy interacting with different people and different cultures, and they typically spend more, but they also typically do not go back to the same place year in and year out. They want something new. So, based on literature searches I've been doing, there hasn't been a lot of research done with this typology based on a activity. Okay, Chandler did it with people who went shopping in flea markets to see if the way you shopped, did allocentrics shop differently than psychocentrics? And I'm trying to use it based on the equestrian. So what I'm trying to do is look at competitive versus non-competitive riders. And are the competitive riders more allocentric than the pleasure riders or non-competitive riders? This was administered as a 37-item questionnaire looking at riding history, style, preferences, and basically how you are applicable to this Plog's personality matrix. Again, the two rider populations, riders who are competitive at either local, national, state, regional, or international level, and non-competitive riders. Questionnaire, basically Plog's questions boil down to about 8 questions. And here are the questions. Based on these questions, we can tell whether you're allocentric, which is very dependable, psychocentric, dependable, allocentric, adventurous, or somewhere in between. And again, these studies, I did this back in 2005, 2006 with Virginia and North Carolina. I just tried to replicate it in Missouri starting in January. And finding Missouri is a different beast, okay? Before I had to use convenient sampling because I had to go to the riders. This time around I tried more of a random sampling technique to be able to extrapolate the data further. So was there a difference? Are competitive riders different than non-competitive riders? The typical rider profile, again, like everything we've heard this morning, mostly female, 85% were female, approximately 30 years of age. Most attended some college. About 40% were employed full-time. The average family income was about $46,000. Most of these females had been riding for at least 16 years. And almost 74%, 3/4 of them competed at some level. So, out of the first go-round, the 2005-2006, I was able to gather 233 participants. And this is kind of how they fared on Plog's typology. So, whether they rode or not, they kind of gave a normal spread. Whether they competed or not. Now again, my assumption was if you competed, you would be on the far end of the scale, at the higher end. Non-compete on this end. No difference, virtually no difference. Okay, this again was 2005, 2006. Whether you competed at, I was looking at different levels of competition, local versus national, state. Again, virtually no difference between the two populations. This recent go-round, it was like pulling teeth, getting people to respond to the questionnaire. There's so many gatekeepers now in the U.S. as far as trying to get email addresses, things like this, that I sent out 300 questionnaires. I've got less than 8% back. So again, it's difficult, but just looking at the data with the small sample size, and I'm going to continue this throughout this year, again, you'll see mostly gathered in the middle, so no difference. So, in the previous study, there's really no correlation. Basically, this model doesn't work as a typology, okay? Because it's basically saying that equestrians are no different than regular tourists and their behaviors through this typology. And most currently, there's not enough data to be able to, in the second half of the study, to make any assumptions, but hopefully by the end of the year, I will have that. So, equestrians tend to have a means to an end. Their competition or pleasure ride is their goal, okay? They're not doing a lot, and again, I believe the level of the competition, the higher the level of competition, the less outside activities you're going to engage in. So if you're going for a local competition, you may do more tourist things around. But if you're going at the highest level of competition, your focus is on the competition. Okay, if you're going to trail ride, your focus is to get down and trail ride. To spend as much time as you can with the horse and on the trail. So, Plog again states the average American falls within the normal distribution. You just saw that. Equestrians do exactly the same. So I'm also going to be looking further down the line at other sports to see if they show any differences. That is it. Did I stay within the 15 minutes? Thank you.